So hello everyone on Facebook. We are getting live on YouTube. Fantastic. So we are going to start. Welcome to That Geek Show, episode number 3. Today we are talking about how to use live video to grow your business, your brand, your followers, your reputation, your prestige, and we are doing it with the amazing Paul Ramsay. Hey, Paul.
Hello, Ifat. How are you?
Fantastic. I love your hypnotic voice.
This is my extra sexy, I have a cold voice. So whenever I get, this is like once a year I get a cold, and I'm like, I need to record some stuff quick.
And I know a few things that you can record. So before we get started, hey everyone. So let me tell you a little bit about our show and what we are going to talk about today. Paul is a little sick. So thank you, Paul, for joining us. And really appreciate your sexy voice. So you are seeing us now live on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Pinterest, and of course on the website amthatgeek.com/live. In about 30 minutes, actually you can jump in right now. When you go to amthatgeek.com/that-live, and people are like, your accent too fast. amthatgeek.com/live. You can actually jump into the conversation with us, and when we open it up in about 30 minutes, you can ask Paul and me any question that you have about building your brand with live video. And so all I'm asking you to do is when you come in, just mute yourself so that you are not interrupting the conversation, and everything will be fine. So Paul and I are going back way, to the days of Google Plus, right? Before Hangouts even, right?
Yeah. Like right before, like I got into Google Plus when it was still in beta. A friend got me an invite, and within, I don't know, a couple months of being there, I discovered you, and you had just started using Hangouts to do your first interview show, and that was way back.
Yeah, and you were the first person to hypnotize me on video, which was pretty impressive.
That's right. Yeah. I forgot about that. That was awesome.
Yeah. And so we met on Hangouts. We went way back when. And then I started my own entrepreneurial show. And Paul and I have been going back and forth. Okay, video, not video. Yes, video. Should I do it? Should I not do it? And finally, after Google Plus kind of faded away, Paul decided to take on video and introduce it to his Hypnosis community. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what made you think, like, okay, let me jump in and, dive into live video? Uh-oh, you're muted. Unmute. Hold on, mute. There we go. Paul, you're muted.
Did you? I unmuted myself, yes. And then you unmuted me, which was muting me. I got it now. All right. So what I was saying was I've always loved video. I had a pretty strong instinct early on about the power of YouTube. And so I spent a lot of, when I got into hypnotism 15 years ago, one of the things the rules I set for myself right away was I'm not paying for advertising. I'm just not. Like, I'm a one-man company. I will generate content that brings attention to me, and I'll build a brand on my own, and I'm not going to pay for it. And so early on, right away, no newspaper ads, no TV ads, no radio ads, none of that old traditional stuff, which still works for some people. I don't want to sound like I'm naysaying it, but it just wasn't right for me. And I got into video really early on, a lot of video from my shows, recorded, edited video. And then when we got into Google Plus and Hangouts was created, light bulbs, laser beams, smoke show, rockets, like the whole thing, I was like, this is it. Like, people, we're a visual culture, and the computer is really the TV now, right? And the traditional television is really the radio, I think. And so I started getting into that, and I had a lot of different iterations. But one of the things that I knew early on was I loved hypnosis. I loved hypnotism, the act of hypnotizing people, so much, and I appreciated my colleagues so much. I wanted to spend more time talking with colleagues. And so I started doing interviews where I was pretty much only interviewing hypnotists. I would occasionally hypnotize other people, interview other people, but I was mostly just interviewing hypnotists. And then like I'd do a little of this and then I'd stop, and I'd do a little of this and I'd stop. I took a break, and then I decided, I was like, why do you keep, like, you got to focus. Like this works. Like, you know, very quickly I had hundreds of YouTube followers, and I wasn't paying for promotion. I wasn't doing anything. I was just creating content and putting it out there. And I had people contacting me from Australia and Italy and England to ask me questions about hypnotism. And then I started doing these interviews, and I was tapping into other people's audiences by doing these interviews. And it just kept getting better and better. And then I finally, I wanted to find a way to give back to my professional community. And I'm part of the National Guild of Hypnotists, and they do an annual convention every year. And so I called Elsam Eldritch, who is in charge. He runs the convention. And I said, Elsam, I have an idea and I would like to volunteer to do something that I think would be really beneficial for you. And he goes, all right, lay it on me. And I said, I would like to interview as many of the people who are presenting at next year's convention as I can. And he goes, well, how many do you think you could do? And I came into the idea kind of late the first year. And I was like, well, you know, if I could do like 20, 25, that might be nice. And he's like, all right, that'd be helpful. So I did it.
Okay,
and it was
cool.
Pause
for a second. So when you were thinking about that, right? The interviews, there was no website to send a person to. It was just like, how did you run those?
This is when Hangouts was still functioning pretty well.
Yep.
And I was just using Google Hangouts where it would archive at YouTube.
Okay. So the first one is you approaching all these experts and going like, okay, let's do an interview, and the interview is a YouTube Hangout interview. Right.
So the benefit for me was they were hosted at my YouTube channel. It was my content. Really, I owned it. And then these people were sharing it on their websites and to their mailing lists and stuff like that. So it was bringing more people to my YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel was growing.
Fantastic.
But because I thought of the idea late, I only did like I said, I don't know, 20, 22 of them, something like that. And I did them literally 2 weeks before the convention, but it still helped. People came up to me who I interviewed at convention and said, you know, someone came up to me and told me they came to my session because they saw the interview.
Oh, wow.
So I knew that it was working.
Yeah.
Then I had a year or two where, because of my stage hypnotism side of my business, I couldn't go to convention. And so I sort of shelved the idea and I didn't do it. And then I got back in again where I could go. And so I called Elsam up and I said, hey, I want to dust off that old idea and I want to do it again. And now I want to start early. And he goes, well, how early? Excuse me. And I said, I want to start in like March. He's like, really? And I said, he goes, how many do you think you could do from March till,
When is the convention?
August. The conventions are always around August 8th, August 9th. I said, I'll start in March.
Okay.
He goes, how many do you think you could do? I said, I don't know. Let's find out. I'll do as many as I can do. He goes, all right. So he greenlights me. And now the second iteration, I was using Zoom in free meeting mode. Mm-hmm. And I was recording my meetings, and I did 106 interviews from St. Patrick's Day until 3 days before convention. Wow. I did 5 to 8 interviews a week, something like that, you know?
Okay, so pause. So what were these live videos that you were doing?
They were technically, but I wasn't pushing them anywhere live. I was just interviewing the individual, recording it, and then publishing it to my YouTube channel. Okay. And then I was asking them to share that published video from YouTube to their blogs, their websites, their Facebook channels, their Twitter accounts, all that kind of stuff.
So in effort, right, because it was a free Zoom account, in effort, it will take about 5 hours a week of your time interviewing. And then were you doing any editing or anything like that when you're uploading them?
Good question. So yeah, so what it was taking was, I was finding that it was taking me about an hour per interview. I would shoot for a 20 to 30-minute interview. And then when it would be done, I would load it to YouTube, and I would use the basic YouTube editor to just trim the beginning and trim the end. So the beginning and the end were clean. I wouldn't do any other editing besides that. And then I would find a point in the video where they were smiling or looking really happy. I would screenshot that, drop it into a photo editor, turn it black and white, take my favorite quote from the interview and pop it on that black and white image of them, and I'd make that the custom thumbnail for the video. So that's what was making it take about an hour, was scanning through, finding the right moment to freeze frame it and screenshot it, finding the quote that I liked, put it in. So it was taking about an hour per interview. Yeah.
So about 10 hours a week?
Yeah, so it was taking me anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a week, depending on how busy I was that week.
Okay. So not live, kind of live, recording.
Not live yet. Yeah, not live yet. We'll get there.
Okay. So not live yet. Doing 160 interviews, about 10 hours a week, recording, editing, uploading to YouTube. So what was the result on that?
Yeah, so it was 106, and the 106 interviews were I counted up the views. I went through and I tallied them all the day before I went to convention, and they got 8,500 views.
Wow.
In that time. And so I wanted the guild to have a sense of what we were producing. So I made sure I wanted to be able to report. So I went in and I told them, I said, so we did these 106 interviews. They've been watched 8,500 times. They were over the moon because they just weren't using video really at all to promote themselves.
Right.
So, and again, then I went to convention and people were coming up to me and they're like, hey, you're Paul, your interviews are great. And all this great kind of brand recognition stuff started happening, right? But 8,500. Now, a full year later, going to this year's convention, those same 106 videos had gotten up to about 10 or 11,000 views. So they're still slowly, we're not doing anything with them, but they're just sitting there and they're still pulling viewership, you know?
Right, and so this is important to something to talk about because what do you call it? The show's never over, right? It's always there. It's YouTube, and if you optimize it, which I don't know if you did, in titles and names and all that stuff, right? It's the second largest search engine on the planet. And
right.
I call it kind of like YouTube University. Every time you want to learn something, you go to YouTube and you find it, and that stuff also surfaces in the first search engine on the planet, which is Google, because they're connected.
Right.
So you're putting your videos on YouTube. Did you do any optimization when you put them up there?
Tagged them, made sure they were always tagged with appropriate tags. When I could, used a title that gave a sense of the topical application of hypnosis. But what I felt like I needed to do at the time, because the goal was to help people. My goal in doing the project, really, in terms of giving back to my community, was to help people who would watch the interviews have a better convention experience. So what I needed to do was I needed to use the title of the presentation, because when they went to convention, they were going to get a guide and they were going to want to look it up and find that in the guide and go, yeah, that's that interview I saw. So I couldn't just pure title it for like pure optimization, you know?
Yeah. Totally. And so, which is fantastic because now you're not only recognized at the convention, but you're actually building the reputation for the talks that are going to take place there.
Right. And so what I had that second iteration, what I had was the individuals that I was interviewing were sharing the videos out to their mailing list, their websites, all that stuff. The National Guild of Hypnotists was sharing it to their Facebook page, their email list and stuff like that. So these people were basically, they were promoting themselves, but they were also promoting me in sharing these videos and getting them out to the world.
Yeah, and so in terms of brand recognition, how would you say that you grew from year one when you did like 20 and then 160, and then we'll get to the live?
So year one, I didn't track that stuff so much. All I tracked was views. Year two, I was like, I need to track this stuff. So, and what I did was, in order to help teach my colleagues, I submitted for a presentation at convention where I would report on everything I did. So year 2, I started tracking it all, and I knew that I had gained 125 YouTube followers in the time frame that I did the interviews. I did the 8,500 video views up between when we started in convention. I even had tracked a little bit. I tracked some of them. I was sharing to my Facebook page, not my Facebook profile, but my Facebook page. And so I even drove a little bit of followership to my Facebook page, but somewhere I messed something up on that. I can't remember what. And I got like 8 new Facebook followers on my page. That was it. I really messed something up when I did that.
Which, you know, followers, like I always say, you can't pay your mortgage with Instagram hearts, right? So followers are not necessarily the biggest vanity numbers, right? It's not like the biggest thing. Okay, so your reputation is growing, your brand is growing, you're becoming recognizable in your niche, right? Like in real life, not just like, hey, I'm someone on a website.
Yeah, and the second iteration was a huge change in that regard. The second iteration, now people are really like, they're stopping me in the hallway at convention. They're asking me for advice. They're asking me if they can pay to consult with me on how to do this stuff. Wow. You know, things are I win an award at convention. The guild gives me, they have an award for the person that year who's done the most to spread and educate the public about hypnotism. And so it was a good fit, 106 videos that, you know, talked about different things you could use hypnotism for. They gave me that award. You know, there's some things like that and when that happens, when you win an award in front of the body of your colleagues, your stock just goes right up. Like nobody starts asking anything else. They're like, he got an award in front of everybody. And then people are coming up to you even more. And it was pretty weird. It was a pretty, you know, strange thing to experience that second year through.
And you know what's really cool about that is that, I don't know if it happens to you, that happened to me when I started interviewing a lot of people. People start associating you with the topics that you interviewed, right? So if you were interviewing someone about like how to stop smoking, right? They're the expert on how to stop smoking, but because you're a part of it, right? Now they're coming to you and like, hey, Paul, can you help me stop smoking? Did that happen to you?
Right, yeah, yeah, totally.
And so you gain expertise and kind of like recognition, right? Being among your peers, I call this the Oprah effect, right? Because what was Oprah doing? She was just interviewing people about their own stuff, right? Regular people, everyday stuff. And she got like, you know, because of the question and the interview, she got associated with all these people. And then people started trying to get associated with her. So it's funny.
There's this effect when you are allowed to interview someone who's an expert in their field on something, the very idea that the expert gave you access raises your status in the eyes of other people. I don't know why, you know, but it really does happen. And again, I went from walking through the hallways, you know, a convention and, you know, people might say hi or wave hello and stuff to like, that year, I was constantly being approached by people who just wanted to feel like they got to have some time with me because they had seen all these interviews.
And that's fantastic. Did you have any programs or anything that you were selling at the time?
I did not, because again, I was so focused truly on trying to be of service that I hadn't even gone there. But then we go to the third iteration.
So let me see. So we get some comments here. I'm going to move them here because you can see them a lot better. So Cheryl goes like the fat effect. And Candy's here and Elena is here. And I see comment like blurring a little bit on the bottom. So all of you guys, if you want to join us in the conversation, please do. All you have to do is go to am.geek.com/live because I'm sure you have even more questions for Paul than I do. So, so we are at the point where you are becoming recognized in your niche. You're an expert in your field. People are approaching you for services, even stuff that you didn't even provide. You don't have a program yet that you're selling, and you're getting all this marketing and recognition without paying for advertising, which is fantastic. And then year 3 happens. Yeah.
So year 3, I look at, you know, I'm a huge fan of, there's a book called The Talent Code. And of course, I'm going to name the name and not be able to tell you the author's name off the top of my head. But there's this great book called The Talent Code. And it looks at how people develop skills and why some people develop them much faster and at a much higher level than other people. And it goes into the brain science behind that, myelination and the nerve pathways and stuff. But it also goes into the functional steps that you can take if you're an individual who wants to learn for yourself, or if you're an individual who wants to coach other people. And so, of course, I want both. So I really love this book. And what in this book they talk about is, the author brings up this concept of deep practice versus shallow practice, right? And so in shallow practice, that's like, I'm going to shoot a free throw 1,000 times a week, and my free throw shooting is going to get better, right? And for many people, that does work. But deep practice is, I'm only going to shoot maybe 500 free throws a week, but I'm going to be painstaking in my awareness of my mechanics, of consistent mechanics, of examining why a shot maybe didn't go in and breaking down the mechanical influence and really tearing stuff apart and chunking down to smaller units and then getting hugely better results, right? Yeah. So, not just practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect.
I love it. My Krav Maga instructor always says that. It's like, if you keep punching the wrong way, you're never going to get perfect at it. Yeah.
Right. You just reinforce. You literally build a myelinated pathway in your brain for doing the less optimal thing. And that's really important to think about. So I'm always thinking like that, right? So I get to third iteration and I think, all right, where'd we miss? Because honestly, while I knew the guild was happy to get 8,500 views, in my opinion, 8,500 views for 106 interviews really wasn't that great. It wasn't anything special, but it was helpful. Yeah. So I think, like, why couldn't I have got more? What happened? I start looking at it, and what I realize is, the 106 interviews were about 66 hypnotists. Some of them were presenting more than once, right? So I gave them more than one interview. Out of the 66 hypnotists that I interviewed, only about 7 or 8 or 9 actually helped me promote the interviews. Interesting. The rest of them took their interview and were like, that was cool, and just let us do it, right?
Yeah, and so pause for a second. Is that because you think that they were not aware of the power of the interview? They didn't know why they should share it. They didn't know how to share it. They didn't know where to share it. I
think, quite frankly, it's always multiple things, right? I think some of it was just laziness. Like, I just want an interview. I don't want to have to work to promote it. Yeah. I think some of it was intimidation about not knowing about social platforms, how to appropriately create posts or curate content. There's probably, several factors there. But so then you look at it and you go, all right, so like 7 or 8 or 9 people got me those 8,500 views. Yeah. I got to do better there. I got to force more of the people to, to help me promote. And the other aspect of it that goes back to your question is, excuse me, I think many fewer of them, because in our community of professionals, a lot of hypnotists are 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s. It's sort of an older profession. More younger people are getting into it all the time, but the demographics skew in that direction of older generations that aren't as familiar with technology. And so I realized, I was like, you know what? A lot of these people probably don't have YouTube channels. So they're not used to sharing them or sending people to them, and they don't have followership at the YouTube channels because they don't even have YouTube channels. So they're not used to like promoting their stuff. And so I thought, where do these people love to be? Where do they congregate, right? Where these demographics really congregate is Facebook. And so I was like, and they've got networks. Not only do they like to hang out at Facebook, but they've got networks of people, hundreds of people per person who they're networked into at Facebook. And now here we go. Facebook is really pushing Facebook Live. Yep. And so the third iteration, I went back to the the folks at the Guild, and they said, we would love for you to do this interview series again. And I said, I will, if you allow me to do it only through Facebook and not on YouTube. And there was a little bit of nervousness there, because what they hear is YouTube, 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 right? Yeah. They think Facebook's just a place to hang out with your buddies and find out what they had for lunch. Right. So, so I said, listen, I need you to trust me. Facebook is pushing video. They want to take on YouTube. They're pushing video in a big way. And we've got members who are networked at YouTube, at Facebook, and we can do this. And they're like, okay. So for the third iteration.
Wait, hold on. So this is important, because this is after 2 years, right? This is year 3. And now you build the trust, you build the recognition, and they're kind of like confident to let you into their own little Facebook world.
Yeah, totally. They saw that I at least got results, and they were happy with those results. So when I told them, I really think I can do better if you let me do this, they were cool about it. They were very supportive.
Fantastic. Which is, you know, what the questions I'm going to follow up afterwards, after you finish this story, is how did you get to those experts, right? Because that's one of the things where people are like, yeah, I want to be interviewing Oprah, but how can I get to Oprah? Like Oprah in my niche, right? So we'll get to that afterwards. Okay, so you're going to them. Let's do Facebook.
So let's do Facebook. And I started exploring. Now, hopefully to inspire people, I didn't know anything about Facebook Live. I just knew that they were pushing it. I saw it, right? And so I was like, excuse me. I was like, all right, I need to learn what's going on with Facebook Live. So I start playing with it, and I start getting into it. And I'm like, okay. So I learned pretty quickly that I, who am reasonably tech savvy, I was even struggling to launch a Facebook Live, which in order to interview another person, you could only do it on a mobile device. It won't let you do it on a desktop device. Yeah. So I had to do it on mobile, get the person to get on mobile, pull them in, and there's a lag in how the system works, how the platform works and stuff. It was clunky as all hell. And then on top of that, when you pull them in, it makes them the smaller video tile, and you're the bigger one. Right. And I was like, it's not about me, it's about them. So then what I had to do was I had to get them to launch a Facebook Live and pull me in. And that was a total clown show, right? Because they were just not used to doing it. So very quickly I was like, this is not working. I mean, we were getting some done, but it was taking sometimes up to 30 minutes just to be able to get them to start the Facebook Live properly and pull me in. And then they're stressed, and I'm kind of stressed, and the flow of the conversation isn't as good. And so I was like, all right, trashing that. What else can we do? And then I found out that Zoom has a webinar mode that you can pay for, where if you pay for Zoom in webinar mode, it will simulcast to Facebook Live for you. And I had used Zoom already before, right? So I was comfortable using Zoom. And when I had used Zoom before, just sending the guests a link, and all they had to do was click a link, they were getting in beautiful. So I knew that they would get in clean and easy. So then I started doing that. I started doing Zoom hosted interviews that were actually simulcast on Facebook Live. And what I'd really do is I would just interview the person live on Zoom, but we'd send all the traffic to Facebook Live, because Facebook is designed to promote that, right? Like when we get on Facebook Live, if I get on a Facebook Live, it pings notifications to my friends. Paul Ramsay's on a Facebook Live. So the platform was promoting without me even having to ask the people to, right?
And you know what's fun about that is not only are they sending the notification, but they also send an email. So now you have an email campaign, email marketing going for you, for free. Like you don't have to write it, you don't have to do anything. Yeah.
So now I've got the platform working for me in a way that the people weren't working for me before. Yeah. And that's awesome. And on top of that, I told Elsam, when I pitched my new idea, I said, Elsam, I want to add a rule. And he goes, all right, what's that? I said, I want to add a rule that I will not interview anyone until they first have done a Facebook Live on their own, announcing themselves as a presenter at the convention this year.
Fantastic.
right? And he goes, well, that seems fair to me. So by creating that, now what I've done is I've forced them to generate content for me that I don't even have to do anything about.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So third iteration.
So they're excited to do that because they remember you from 2 years ago. It's not like,
and they're scared too.
Right?
They're scared too. They were nervous, but they did it because they really wanted the coverage. They really, really wanted the coverage. So we go from 106 interviews of like 66 hypnotists. The third iteration, we actually, excuse me, we actually go down to only about 45 hypnotists. Mm-hmm. But I get 45 videos out of them that they're pushing out to their networks, announcing that they're presenters. And then I do 45 interviews with them and cover their topics. And some of them I did doubles with. So it ended up being it was like 90, it was like 96 interviews. It was like 10 less interviews than the year before.
Yeah.
10 less videos than the year before.
And less effort, more reach. What was the results on that?
So I went through and counted those the day before I went to convention, and those got watched 25,000 times.
So that's like what, 4 times
so
doubling or something?
Pretty much tripled the viewership by using Facebook Live as the primary delivery space. And again, I think it's so important that if you're watching and you're thinking about this, it's not like that's gonna work for everyone. It's gonna work when you know you have a target audience Facebook Live that's invested in their Facebook community and that loves to still interact, right? So like high school kids, they're not consuming a lot of content on Facebook, right? So I wouldn't do this if I was trying to move a product or build a brand with high school kids. I'd be over on Instagram doing something else. But knowing that the people who are genuinely enthusiastic about hypnotism, whether it's at a hobbyist level or a professional level, and who really care about growth and development in their skill set as hypnotists, are in a certain age demographic that really does fit Facebook, it's crazy not to leverage the engagement that they already have on Facebook.
So what I love about that is that you went to where the audience was. So at the beginning, you went with like the shiny object. Everybody's talking about YouTube. YouTube is the one thing there, right? And also to give you credit, there was no Facebook Live when you started with YouTube, right?
Right, they didn't even exist, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all kind of like, oh, there's all these things, but I'm going to go to the one I'm comfortable with, right? It was just like, there's only YouTube, that's the only thing you can do, and there's only Hangouts, right? And we got accustomed to Hangouts. So we're doing Hangouts, we're doing YouTube, and then I love that you looked at the data. Like you didn't let like, okay, what's my gut feeling? What's going on? Let me try this, try that. No, you have data. You're checking the data, and based on the data, you make your decisions. And then you're, okay, where are everybody's hanging out? What can I do to grow that? And then were you monitoring like year 3, what's happening and how that's growing and adjusting as you go?
Yeah, so I kept checking it as we were going along. And again, I started right around the same time as the year before. I started right around St. Patrick's Day. And I wrote down all my initial numbers. I wrote down what my Facebook page followership numbers were. I wrote down, I kept checking my viewership numbers, and I kept checking not literally every single one of them, but I kept checking in on the specific video views for the people when they made their announcement videos, because I wanted to see if I could find any kind of a trend there. And, what I discovered there that was really cool was, it's common sense really, but once you see it, you got to see it first. The people who were well networked in Facebook, so like second iteration, there were people who would we do their interview and they would pull maybe 75 views. Some would get 600, but some of them would get like 75 views, right? The third iteration, the very same people, I'd watch them get 300 views on Facebook because they were just more networked. They had people who cared and were invested in them and wanted to know what they were up to. So when these people were making these announcement videos, their people, their tribe, were coming and checking it out. So then you started seeing it's not just about being like marketing savvy. That certainly helps, or brand savvy. Sometimes it's just the good old, like, are you engaged in your community? Are you spending time connecting with people and engaging with people? And those people who weren't on YouTube but were on Facebook, I could totally see the difference.
So, yeah. And what I would say to that is, first of all, I love that you're like, okay, where are the people? And let me go to where the people at. And then let me kind of like leverage the human connection and allow them to connect to their audience. And actually, when you're interviewing them, you're featuring them as the experts, right? So it's like a pride for them to be like, hey, come watch my interview because they're interviewing me and I'm the smart person on stage, right? But today you can be live like we are everywhere. So if you guys watching this and you're going like, okay, which platform should I use to grow my business? Well, you can choose one and just focus on one. Like Paul was saying, if you want the kids, go to Instagram, even though I see all the big marketers on Instagram now, right? But if you don't want to choose, you can be everywhere at the same time. Wherever your audience is, they're going to see you, recognize you, and come and talk to you and participate with you, which is fantastic. You don't have to choose, basically. So year 3, do you have a product?
So year 3, what I did was I got a table in the vendor area at the convention for the first time ever. And I was, asking people to come and visit us at the table all during convention. And a lot of people I didn't even have to ask. Again, the same way that they would come up and stop me in the hallway, they're naturally going to check out the vendor area, and they're just swinging by the table and they're talking to me and saying hi and saying how much they love the interviews. And then you've got the traffic. And so we had a pre-made sheet, kind of old school, just a paper sheet that listed 3 different products that we were trying to move at that convention. We had, and the big ticket item was mentorship. And so what we were doing was Sandra, I keep saying we, Sandra and my partner, Sandra's a hypnotist also. And so we were going in there together and we were teaming up to say, if this is the stuff that you wish you could learn more of, you want to really grow your business, you want to grow your brand, come and join us and we'll mentor you on everything, like how to get more live speaking gigs that help you grow your brand, how to get more social media action, everything. And we sold mentorship for $4,750, and that's $4,750, and we sold one. So so I feel like, so first of all, again, my total cost in doing those interviews was my time and $120 for 3 months of the webinar service, right? Yeah. And so I'm out 120, and then I'm pulling 4750 in one mentorship sale. And again, sales is actually not I'm always about brand. I don't really spend a lot of energy selling. I'm always just like, I've had this weird thing, it's my own biases and stuff, that I'm like, if you build a good brand, people will literally just come to you and they'll give you money. I really believe that. When they know you, when they feel like they know you and they trust you and they respect you, they'll say, can you help me solve this problem? And this client who came to me for mentorship, he came to me because he saw the interviews. He told us that when he came to the table. He said, I really want to talk with you guys. I want to do more of what you're doing, and I want to grow my practice. And so he spent $4,750 specifically because he was able to see me in the interviews over and over again and be like, this guy's smart. He knows what he's doing. I'll learn from him.
And what I love about that is that you said the key word from the beginning. You came in service, right? You didn't come in like, all your videos were not about like, buy my stuff, 50 off, 10 off, tonight only, all that, right? And you weren't even kind of like hijacking your guest's audience. You were not kind of like, okay, well, while you're seeing this, come and see my site. Or you were doing it on your own, on their Facebooks, right? Or was it on your own Facebook?
It was on my Facebook page for besthypnosistraining.com, and we were sharing them over at the National Guild's Facebook page. So everything was getting shared in 2 places, plus the individuals were sharing on their profile pages. But again, everything that we shared and did, I never plugged anything but that person. My goal truly was to help people going to the convention. I'll backtrack just a little bit quickly. So like, there's a lot going on at convention. And so like, if you want to learn about how to use hypnosis to help people lose weight, there's not just one presentation over the 3-day weekend. There's probably like 5, because that's a really big topic. So my goal was to say, like, I'm sure all of them are good, but how do I help people go, you know what, now that I saw these interviews, that person seems like the right one for me to go spend an hour with and listen to. That's what I was really shooting for, was to get the most happy convention experience for people who went to convention, and in being happy, also create a happier convention experience for the people presenting.
Which is, you know, exactly what they wanted, right? So you're catering, right, to your own needs as building your brand, but also you starting from the point of view of like, how can I help the speaker get more people to come and see their talk, which is probably why in year 3, after they saw what happened in year 1 and 2, they're like, no, I'll share, just interview me, right?
Yep. I really believe in that. There's one of my favorite quotes is that old Zig Ziglar quote where, and I may not nail it, I may be paraphrasing, but he says, you can have everything you want in life if you help other people have everything they want.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Like, I just think that's true. I think if you really think, how do I help others live their best life, professionally, personally, whatever, you really go out and you do that, people are gonna be like, that guy's all right. And they're gonna do something with you, you know? And if they don't, it's because of a stylistic thing that they perceive that you're just not the right fit for them. And I don't want to work with somebody who's not the right fit for me. I'd rather send them to a colleague and, again, help everybody get what they really want. You know, it's so simple to me.
It is. And I love that intention, because that intention kind of like, you know, ripples around everything that you do, and it helps the organization, it helps the speakers, it helps your brand. So now your brand grew, people recognize you everywhere, you're getting awards for your contribution. Everyone who walks around the conference room goes like, hey Paul, I saw your interview, which I'm sure it happened to the experts that you interviewed as well, right? It's like, hey,
yeah.
I saw your interview.
Totally. Again, I had people come up to me and say, hey, I just really want to thank you. I had 2 people come up to me and say, I came here because I saw that interview you did and I just really wanted to learn more. I had, you know, not a lot, but I had people. I probably had, you know, 6 or 7 people at convention come up and tell me that. I had people send me like Facebook private messages. Again, only like probably 3, but still, I had people who took the time and were like, hey, Mr. Ramsay, I just want to say thank you for doing these interviews. I feel like they're really helping me have a better convention experience. I now know I have a real plan for what sessions I want to go to, and I think it's awesome because of these interviews. So it makes me happy.
It does. And, you know, these are the things that, you know, at the end of the day make you sleep good at night, right? It's not just like, how many vanity followers do I have? No, how many people did I really help today and change their life? And actually in your work, that's exactly what you do. You change people's lives through hypnosis. So totally, it's kind of like, you know, 1-to-1. So did you ever have people coming to you and go like, okay, teach me how you do video?
I did. And you know, this is one of those things that I think always happens with businesses is I had, you know, like I said, I sold that mentorship package. And then I had, the other thing we were doing was a specific build your brand online course that we built to help hypnotists do this. And we had a lot of people ask about it, and I didn't do a good job of converting because we didn't have anyone buy it because they were still so afraid of the technology. And so, but what's happened since then is I've kept doing things and they've kept seeing me, and now we're offering it again in December and people are enrolling in it for December. So we are, and I think it's like a late sale almost that's predicated on the project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know, sometimes you have to wait for the audience to catch up with you, right? It's kind of like you're so out there and you're doing all these things, and it's like, okay, let's wait until the entire universe kind of gets to like, we need to do video and we're okay with video, and okay, let's jump into video, right?
So you want me to tell you about the 4th iteration?
Yes. I didn't know there was a 4th.
Well, it technically, I would say it sort of is the 4th, but it's not really. It's really it's more appropriate to say the other project. So now I went in 3 times. I produced better results each time, and I knew that I had a lot of trust with the leaders at the guild, right? So then I was like, all right, what's another way that I can be of service? Because I really genuinely want to serve my professional community. And I'm thinking to myself, we have these local chapters in the guild, right? So people who are in the Boston area get together once a month and they have a meeting where they talk about hypnosis techniques, business development ideas. It's a chance for hypnotists who are often individual business owners to get some networking and some support amongst their collegial community, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I went to them and I said, I got another idea and I need you to trust me. And Elsam, who is just so great, he goes, all right, let's hear it. And I said, I want to do the first ever virtual chapter. And he was like, tell me more. And so I was like, I want to do live video chapter meetings. I said, because you know this. I said, there's some people who live in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, and there's nowhere for them to have a chapter. There aren't enough. They're the only hypnotists in the area. Or my friend Andrea Michelle, who's out in, she's near like Deadwood, South Dakota, you know, like she's out in the Badlands, and like there's just, you'd have to drive 2 hours to go to a chapter meeting. And I was like, we've got 11,500 members all in like 83 countries or something like that. I was like, why not just let everyone meet virtually online and have great guest speakers and, you know, stuff that people can't get locally. And he was like, that's an intriguing idea. And so they greenlighted me finally, right? And so now once a month, I host this virtual online chapter meeting. And it's not to replace the local chapters. The local chapters still get together because that's important, right? To, you know, be physically present with your local colleagues. It's like a supplemental. And every month I do a 30-minute meeting and I ask 2 or 3 of my colleagues to be guests and appear. And it's not like what you're used to do. I don't interview them so much as I kind of interview them. I talk with them about a particular topic, you know, and I just ask for their thoughts on a particular topic or theme and what have they been up to and, you know, what are they doing? And the goal is to get colleagues to just think about how they could do things differently or how they could, you know, add new practices to their business or things like that. And so we started doing that in September. And so we've had 2 meetings so far. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing it on Zoom as a webinar, but I'm broadcasting it live through Facebook Live at the NGH's page. So people can just drop in and watch it there. And we're getting live viewership, and then we're getting a lot more replay viewership afterward. But it's growing. We had 15 live viewers the first month, 20 live viewers the second month. We had 200 total views the first month. We're up to 220 right now in the second meeting. And, you know, again, those numbers are not like colossal numbers, but first of all, we've only done 2 of them. Yeah. And second of all, if you compare it to the local chapter effect, you know, when I used to have a local chapter, we'd have meetings where there'd only be 6 people there because there's just not a lot of hypnotists, you know? Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that. And again, I get to be the facilitator. So there's a definite benefit for me of giving that time and organizing these meetings and facilitating them because again and again, I'm out there, you know, I'd like to think providing a sort of leadership role in my professional community, and my brand just keeps growing.
And I love it because most people would go exactly like you said, the marketing route, right? We'll pay for ads, in the paper, we'll try to get PR and all the paid marketing that will probably take just as long to test, right? To test and convert and all that stuff. And instead, what you've done year after year, which is great that you're building on top of it. But like from year 1, it started giving you recognition, and now it's giving you virtual chapters. You basically have a virtual community, right, of your own guild that you are running, you know, as an extension of the guild association, right? Like you're now, what do you call it? You're recommended by them, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to be a consistent voice within that community and keep contributing, you know, and create more and more engagement, which I genuinely, I'm like, everybody benefits from that.
And your business started from nothing, right? It was kind of like, okay, let me try to do that for everybody. And I didn't have a product, and people coming to me and going like, hey, can you do this for me? And did you develop your products based on everything that you've heard people asking you to do?
Yeah, I find, you know, so right now we're selling a class online that I'm calling a demonstrational hypnosis class. And it's totally what you said, Ifat. That's what I want to talk about. So like I have found that I have a lot of my colleagues who know that I do stage hypnotism and consulting hypnotism. And so often they would say to me, you know, I have no desire to be a stage hypnotist, but I do sort of wish I knew a little bit about what you guys do so that maybe I could do it and show clients and might be impressive at like if I speak at BNI or something like that to give a little live demo. And I heard that enough that I was like, all right, so I'll build that. So I built this online class where I'm going to teach consulting hypnotists just a little bit of stagey stuff. Yeah. No goofing around so much, but just more impressive hypnotizing techniques than the usual sit in your chair, close your eyes and follow my voice. A little more flair-based stuff that we would do on stage. And that way, hopefully, and the class is also going to teach them how to really prepare a total presentation so that hopefully they go up and they just dominate. And they're like, watch this, kids. And they blow it out of the water for their audiences. And people come up and go, I need to work with you. What do I do?
I love it. So you're basically using video not only to build your brand, but also to find out what products your market wants to buy. And then you go, right, rather than test and error, trial and error. Yeah. You just listen to them and you go like, okay, well, here it is.
Totally.
That's great. So what was the biggest surprise? Like something that you're like, well, I didn't expect this to happen.
I didn't expect I didn't expect it to the scale that it happened. I'm used to, because I do perform on stage throughout the year, and I'm used to doing a show and then having people come up and want to shake my hand or get a picture with me and that kind of stuff. Like I'm used to that really small level of celebrity treatment. It was a little weird to me that like people were really like coming up and stopping me and wanting to talk with me. Like what I figured out, and if it got to a point where it was a little bit bad, was, so what was happening was I got more and more followers at my page, right? Like this third year, the third iteration, I added like 75 followers to my page, right?
Of real like people, I just say.
you know, and then what started happening was right away, people would follow me and then they'd friend me on Facebook. So I added way more friends. I added probably 300 new friends this period on Facebook that were all hypnotists. Yeah. And as soon as I would accept their friend request, they would then send me a request to like their page. And I got kind of pissed about that. Yeah. Because that's not the culture that I like to operate in, right? Where I was like, I don't even know you. I'm trusting that you want to get to know me because you sent me a friend request, but I don't know you. Why should I like your page? I haven't seen your content. I haven't seen anything.
You know what's interesting is like, I always talk about that. It's kind of like, you know, this connection, right? This internet of things, right? Because we don't know each other so intimately yet because of, you know, text and edited videos and, you know, Photoshop and all that stuff. We kind of feel like the internet is a place to market. It's kind of like you went into a BNI group and you just held your book and you're like, hey, everyone, you don't know me, but hey, buy my book. It's 50% off today. Right? And you don't understand why that doesn't work.
So I made this rant video one day where I wasn't like crazy, but I did rant, where I was like, listen, this video is for my hypnotist colleagues. And I was like, if you're doing this, and I described it, I was like, stop, just stop. And I explained why and everything. And I was a little bit ranty. So I wasn't like full on mad. Like I wasn't giving anybody the finger or anything like that. But I was like, come on, like this is not how, you know, you build good relationships with people. Like, how would you like it? I said, you know, and I said, how do you like it when people telemarket, call your house? And how do you like it when people spam you in your e-box? Like, that's all you're doing. And I was like, what are you doing? You know? And one of my colleagues sent me a message. She left a comment under that video that was really smart. And she said, I totally get what you're saying, but I also think you need to consider that some of these people could be doing it because they genuinely feel like they know you because of watching all your interviews. Interesting. And I was like, oh, and I really hadn't thought of that. You know, like she said, you have to trust that some of them, they're not just spamming you. They have watched you and they like you and they are trying to further a relationship with you that they think already exists that you don't think exists.
So I would, you know, it's a nice explanation, but if I want to further my relationship with you, I'm not just going to try to get you to do something for me. I will do something for you, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know. So, but it gave me a different perspective to at least consider, though, that I thought was worth considering. And I still am like, I kind of was like you. I was like, well, there's better ways to further a relationship than just be like my shit, you know, like.
If you haven't yet, don't you know I have a page? So yeah, you know, and it's different cultures. So if you were to advise anyone, you know, in hypnosis, or anyone who's just starting a business right now, or, you know, thinking about starting video, what would be like, do this and don't do that?
So I think the first thing goes back to what I said earlier. The first thing is think about who you're really trying to reach. Yeah. You know, because again, like, if you're trying to reach teenagers, there's really not much point in you doing Facebook Lives that are really targeting teenagers. You know, like, find the platform that really helps you get to the congregation. That's the first thing that's really, really important. And then after that, I think the next thing is whatever you create, just be as authentic as you can be. Like, don't try to be fancy. Don't try to be like a big shot. You know, like, I think my interviews worked so well because what I was really doing when I was interviewing people was I saw every interview as an opportunity to get to know a colleague that I didn't know at all or that I didn't know very well. Yeah. And the comparison I always used up until now, and I will keep using it, when I talked with people about it, is I said, you ever seen comedians in cars getting coffee?
Yeah.
That was... it was totally me basically ripping off that concept where I was like, because I watched it and I so admired Seinfeld's concept for that show. And I was like, that's all I want to do. I want to hang out with colleagues who genuinely love hypnotism and talk with them about why they love hypnotism and what facets of it exactly they love. And I think if you come from a motivational place that's like that, the energy is unmistakable.
Totally. And yes, you have to be passionate about what it is that you do. Even though John Lee Dumas, shout out if you're watching, when he started, he was very much, you know, he was a soldier and he just had a list of questions. And it was a podcast, granted, so you didn't see him. But he just had a list of questions and be like, so are you ready to ignite? Yeah. So what? Very monotone, very like question. He got much better in time, and that kind of follows what you're saying, like how deep and you get into your craft. But yes, a lot of people, when the camera comes on, they're like, they're in the headlights. I don't know what to do. Okay, give me the question and stuff, right? And I should be interviewing influencers. Where are the influencers? And now I'm sitting with an influencer and I'm freaking out because they're an influencer and I'm not an influencer, right? And for you, it kind of came from a different way because you were presented from the guild itself, right? And you were interviewing people and you're very passionate about what you're doing. So it wasn't kind of like, what am I going to talk about? I don't know what to talk about. That's it. So I know you got a hard close, but I want to have people jump in. So if you have anything that you want to say, Stuart, raise your hand. Michael, raise your hand. You want to say, okay, hey, Stuart, let me unmute you. There we go.
Well, thank you, Aoife, and thanks, Paul. I'm curious, now that Aoife is more or less teaching us how to spread the vidcast over multiple platforms at the same time, can you see yourself using that as a tool to spread the interviews and the word, so to speak?
I could. I have no desire to do so. And so this is one of those classic things, Stuart. It's a great question where I might be missing out. I really might. I'm totally open to that. What I know is for now, and again, go back to my description before of I do care about flexibility and evolving what I do. So that could change. But for now, I still know that the brand I really want to grow is within my my community. And what I really want to do is I want to get more and more away from stage hypnotism. I've been doing it for 15 years. And I don't really care about traveling all over the country and being on stage like a big shot anymore. I'm like, I've done that for 15 years. What I really want to do now is I want to train people who want to become hypnotists so that I can feel like I'm having a spread impact on the world by creating good hypnotists who go out and do good work. And so most of the people who are going to be open to that are still people of the demographics that Facebook is the right fit for me. LinkedIn could be another one, but I think primarily so far it's shown to me that it's Facebook. So for now, my plan is just to keep sticking within the Facebook ecosphere.
That makes good sense. Do you have that class developed?
Oh yeah. We taught, we certified 7 new hypnotists in May, and we're teaching another class in the end of October, and we've got people enrolled in that class already. And our goal is to get up, Sandra and I want to get to a point where we're doing 2 to 3 classes a year with anywhere from 15 to 20 hypnotists per class. And if we can do that, my original background, I was formerly educated to be a teacher. So I know I can build curriculum and teach at a really high level. And I think we're going to build some really special stuff. We already have, really. And I think it's just going to keep growing and evolving. And we're going to really get some great hypnotists out there that help change people's lives.
You communicate extremely clearly, and I congratulate you.
Oh, thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette.
Thanks, Stuart. It's so much fun to see our old Google Plus getting together on Zoom and Facebook.
Can I say one thing, Yvette?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mentioned earlier, Paul mentioned earlier that it's hard to get to know people directly where you feel like you really know them. Mm-hmm. I feel Yvette and I have never met in real life, but I feel like I know Yvette. We've knocked down some of the dark alleys of the internet. So,
well, that's the power of video, right? That's why I stick with video. I don't do a podcast. I don't do a lot of the. I don't have a Twitter account. I've shunned a lot of the other stuff because I want people to see me when they hear me. I want them to see my nonverbals. I want to have conversations. And I know, Stuart, you going back to the Google Plus crowd, right? Like, I get it. I totally get it. And I learned so much from when I was over there about the value of that.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. And it's been a fascinating session. I'll shut up now.
You're good. So yeah, and it's really fantastic how how people connect with you when you're not edited, when you're not photoshopped, right? When you make mistakes, when you say things wrong, when you go like, oh, let me correct myself. I'm thinking, when you're authentic and you're having this real conversation in real time. So last but not least, I know you got to go. Jack, do you have a question? Do you want to speak? Do you have something to say? To say yes, no, nod, no? You good? Michael? You good? Okay, I think they are. So, video. I love video. I love video. I really promote video, live video, especially because that really builds the connection, the relationships. And as you've just seen from Paul, you can go from not having a product at all, not having a brand or all that stuff, but just starting doing video in your niche with the people in your niche.
I think they are.
Your own community. Just jump in.
So video, I love video. I love video. I really promote video, live video, especially.
Hold on a second.
The relationships and as you've just.
Okay, there we go. So that was Jack. We have to figure out who's talking. Paul, any last things about? So yes. So if you are coming to imthatgeek.com/live and you are interested in learning about hypnosis, but you don't want to spend your money or so much time figuring out whether or not it's good for you, Paul, tell them what they got.
You see this, it's like Stonehenge. The sun is coming around. I have to keep leaning. I'm like, I got 30 seconds before the sun scorches me like a vampire. So you go to besthypnosistraining.com, or you provided a link. So we offer a free introduction to hypnosis course. One of our missions, a part of our bigger mission, is to get more people in the world using hypnosis and self-hypnosis. It is a natural, safe, and effective modality for health and wellness. There's plenty of research to support that at this point. There's brain scans and lots of great studies that show it. And so we really just want to keep promoting that to people. So we give away a free introductory course at besthypnosistraining.com. And we've given you the link. So people, if you're at imthatgeek.com, click the link. It'll take you to the landing page where you can sign up for that and enjoy that and explore how you could use hypnosis to make your life better.
And I know I'm going to use that because there's so much stuff that would be so much easier to deal when you're hypnotized, right? And I have experience with you hypnotizing me on Hangouts before, so it's totally good.
That's right.
So I highly recommend that, guys. imthatgeek.com/live. Go in there. It's a free course. It doesn't require anything except your email address, so you know where to get it. And it's filled with videos, audios, written material. And as you can see from Paul, it's all about service and delivering value. So I highly recommend you do that. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, Paul. Hey.